Hi there. In this lecture we're going to have a look at another encounter between Donald Byrne against Bobby Fischer. So Donald Byrne playing white again and plays knight f3. So would this be another game of the century like the 1956 encounter? So 1957, 58th US Open, round 9. Fischer plays knight f6, c4, g6. Fischer goes with the Kingscrusher defense. And now after e3, d6, bishop e2, e5. White castles, knight bd7, knight c3, rook e8, rook c1. And now Fischer does take the plunge with e4. We have knight e1 and now knight e5. d3, and now protects the pawn with bishop f5. d takes, knight takes e4. Knight takes, bishop takes e4. Bishop c3, which keeps the bishop protected there on c3 against any naughty tactics that might occur. This bishop's looking at that, so it's now protected rather than unprotected on b2. We see f5, so this is a very interesting move, going for it. We see b4, b6, trying to suppress c5 as a strategic break. Perhaps queen b3, queen e7, c5 check, the king moves, c6, and then we see queen e6, not minding an exchange of queens. That's rejected. We have queen f7, b5, g5, a4, f4. Yeah, black's position looks quite comfortable, but white is actually doing okay at the moment. f3, bishop f5, e4, bishop e6, knight c2, and we see queen g6. And yeah, there is an easy plan of playing for g4 here, trying to weaken white on the light squares. Knight d4, rook f8, not minding the loss of the light square bishop here. a5, rook a e8, a takes, rook a1. Here, things would actually get worse if white tried to suppress g4 with h3. With after h5 as an example, this situation is very comfortable for black. Black's pretty solid and has a lot of interesting prospects here. But actually, to be fair, objectively, this is about equal. Anyway, so rook a1, g4, f takes is played. And we see the queen daring to take on e4, rook a e1, queen d5, h3. And we see rook a8 as though rook a2 might be a concern. Knight takes, queen takes, and now queen b4, queen d5. And this is a slip up here. This is a big slip up from white. This queen move, looking across that diagonal, caused, it seems, Donald Byrne a little bit of a panic. He plays king h1. Now, this is an improvement over the 1956 game. He did manage to castle here, but king safety is still of paramount importance. And this move, if you look at it, it looks like an X-ray, between queen and king. And that's a theoretical downside sometimes, which can actually mean a practicality, a practical downside. Better, it seems, is bishop f3. For example, this position should be fine for white. White should be absolutely fine here. But yeah, this is a major slip up, king h1. And in this moment, Fischer dares play to f3. After g takes, knight takes f3. Yeah, it's a very interesting situation. And it seems as though, white must have underestimated this. We see rook d1. If bishop takes, g7 check, king takes, bishop takes, rook takes. This situation should actually be about even with very accurate play from white. It should be about even. But rook d1 was played, and now, in fact, white collapses after knight d4 check. This discovered check is a big problem here. We see rook f3. I mean, there are issues like bishop e5 check if king h2. So yeah, rook f3, and now rook takes f3. Rook takes d4, but now rook takes h3 check, and white is getting slaughtered all of a sudden after queen h1 check. And now rook f8 check. Yeah, white's just losing a rook after rook f4, queen h2 check, and the game ended here. If it continued, king e1, rook takes f4, bishop takes, king takes, queen b2 check, king f8 as an example. This is just hopeless for white. So yeah, there was a key slip up. So this is one of the lesser known encounters. And maybe the instructive, philosophical point is, as humans, we're kind of weak tactically. We've got to bear that in mind. So these kind of X-ray alignments, we should handle them with care. If we put our king in the firing line, theoretically even in the firing line of the queen, like in this game at this point, when the queen returned back, this move was made far more effective with king h1. This is blunder of the game, in my view, this move 34, king h1. An X-ray based slip up, which was totally unnecessary. And in fact, yeah, white stood pretty well here after bishop f3. As mentioned, queen j8, rook e2. So yeah, just be careful of these X-rays, I think, is the instructive point and takeaway from this particular game. And it's also interesting, Fischer's getting experience in the King's Engine defense and the King's Engine attack with white. So in a way, his repertoire is pretty solid. Even though it's non-theoretical, it's system-based. And within that system, he's scoring points. Okay, I hope you got something from this. Thanks so much. Hi guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you want more Bobby Fischer content, check out my Kingscrusher TV page. And if you go to the bottom of it, it starts at the bottom with 1970 to 1992. I also have 2 other Bobby Fischer courses. I found him absolutely fascinating to study. So there's 1956 to 62 early in his career, and there's 1963 to 68. So I hope you find those interesting. You might want to check them out, all the free samples. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. Comments, questions, likes, shares, always appreciated. Thanks very much.